I want to introduce Frank and Ashley over here, who are going to really wrap this up for us. And I think they're going to, I've kind of seen their slides, so I'm going to say that they're going to wrap this up with everything that this weekend has meant to all of us and how we carry this forward until we see each other next year.
All right. Okay, are we sitting?
I want to stand.
You want to stand? I kind of want to stand too.
Yeah,
All right, we're gonna stand.
I can sit while you talk.
Let's do this.
So prepared. Wait, this is muted. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you to everybody who's on the live stream. I don't want to forget to acknowledge that. It's hard for us to remember sometimes, but we've got a few slides, but we definitely want to have time for Q&A. So Ashley's gonna start it.
You're gonna start.
I'm gonna start. Okay.
You're starting.
Okay, so just quick introductions. Frank Sarowski is diagnosed stage 4, 2014. Done a few different things: targeted therapy, surgery, radiation, and the whole purpose of this session is to talk about the importance of community building, which I think a ton of has happened here this week, and also exercising advocacy. And advocacy has so many different meanings, so we will cover that. But I'm going to give it to Ashley, and she's going to introduce herself and go.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes. Great. Yeah, my name is Ashley. I was diagnosed in 2022 with stage 4 non-small cell with no biomarkers. And as you can see, my treatment has been chemo, immunotherapy, radiation. I had a full lung removal, and I recently started a clinical trial just last week for an antibody drug conjugate.
Big green button.
Thank you. Sorry. Oh my God.
Big guy.
Oh, this big one,
Yeah.
Other big green button. Okay, so before I dive in, I want to give a little bit of background because as you all know, we are so much more than our diagnosis. So I live in Northern California. I'm the mother of 2 young boys. Before my diagnosis, I was a hospice social worker. I was also very healthy, active, fit like many of you. So over the course of 366 days, I went in over 20 times pleading for help as my symptoms progressed. My very first telehealth visit with a doctor, I was up in Tahoe with my family, woke up and just knew in my gut something was horribly wrong. So I had an emergency telehealth visit with my doctor, and I said, look, this is gonna sound a little wild, but I think I have a tumor growing in my lung. And in my defense, I built a very strong case. And instead of doing further assessment or maybe offering me imaging, she said, Ashley, do you have a history of anxiety? Who doesn't, honestly? And second question was, what is your BMI? Now, I'm not a doctor, but I don't think body size impacts, shortness of breath or feeling like a knife is stabbing into your back every time you lie down. So that set the stage for a year of misdiagnoses, everything from long COVID, despite never getting COVID, and pneumonia twice. It got to the point where I went to the ER, I looked the doctor in the eye, and I said, I am going to die if you discharge me. Thankfully, she believed me. I was diagnosed with a blood clot in my leg, pulmonary embolism, later admitted, given the imaging, I should have gotten a year prior, it was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. There we go. So, like many of you, I felt like I was the only person in the world living with lung cancer. I couldn't find anyone online when I Googled or in person sharing my experience. The only in-person meetup I found was for young women living with breast cancer. I called them and said, can I join in? I have lung cancer. I wasn't allowed to. So this really amplified the isolation I felt. I could no longer relate to my friends who were lamenting about workplace drama or Tinder dates gone wrong when I was literally fighting for my life. So a month after surgery, I began wondering how many others. I really can't be the only person in this entire world living with lung cancer. But if I am, I want to share my story. So instead of doom scrolling all day, I downloaded this little app called TikTok. I created the name One Lung Lady, and I, as you can see, shared my story for the very first time. Now I want to note, it looks like I have not showered in a week. I just had an entire organ removed. Despite this, within hours, this video garnered hundreds of thousands of views. Within days, maybe a week, it reached 1 million. What was most life-changing about this, one, was people reached out and said, I have the same exact symptoms. Everyone thinks I'm crazy. I don't know what to ask for. I don't know what to do. Can you help me? Other people shared similar stories. What was most life-changing for me, this always makes me cry, a few people reached out and said, hey, Ashley, I too am living with lung cancer. And for the very first time, I knew I wasn't alone. My goal was simple. I wanted to share my story and connect with others, and I felt like this was the very first time I could do that. Oh God, okay. So it started as a way to feel less alone, became a powerful tool for connection, for healing, and for building community. It's also a really fun way to add some levity and lightness to, if I may, a very shitty situation. Unfortunately, we couldn't get this video to work, but I'll read it off to you. Does anyone play Wordle? Yeah, it's a great way to dissociate before you read your scans. So this is me just recently before I reviewed my scans, before I started a clinical trial, and there's some music in the background. You can't get it to play, that's okay. I'll read it to you. It says, just me dissociating via Wordle while internally freaking the F donut emoji CK out in my oncologist's office. So much fun. So social media has the opportunity to reduce isolation. You can connect with others in lung cancer groups, in the comment section, in the private messaging section. It opened doors for community, not only online, but also opened doors for in-person opportunities, and for healing. Sharing my story is tremendously healing. And honestly, it's not just about lung cancer, is it? My story, like many of yours, has layers of meaning. Mine is woven with medical gaslighting, sexism, delayed care, and all of the systemic barriers that so many of us, especially marginalized communities, face when seeking help. And when we bring these layers into the light, something magical happens. Storytelling turns into, what's it turn into, Frank?
Hope.
Advocacy.
Advocacy.
Advocacy, Frank.
You can see how much we prepped. You can't set me up like that. Okay.
And hope, he was right. B+ for you, Frank.
B+. Thanks.
These are some videos that I did, and as you can see, this is advocacy. Let me read it off here. Lung cancer symptoms I experienced as a young, healthy person. When to ask for a lung cancer screening. How to ask for a second opinion. And debunking common myths about lung cancer. By showing our faces, by being visible, we challenge stigma. We educate, and we remind the world that lung cancer, go ahead and look around, doesn't look the same way. Advocacy doesn't always have to be on a stage or in DC. Sometimes it can be in a recliner after you have an organ removed. It can be walking the beaches in Australia with your son, or it can be in a hospital bed after you've had a reaction to a treatment. Every time we hit post, we are raising awareness, and we are helping someone feel less alone. This is advocacy. Telling our stories pushes back against harmful narratives, and it shows the world that we deserve to be heard. So before I end, this is just my advocacy outline. I started by sharing my story. I moved into talking about other aspects of living with lung cancer, like side effects of treatment. I got to go on the news with my surgeon, and that's when I was like, wait, am I a patient advocate, and what the heck does this mean? I was featured in a few articles. I share my patient perspective with pharma companies. I recently started a podcast, the One Lung Lounge, highlighting patient stories and talking with experts in the field. And I just want to say this, if you've been thinking about sharing your story online, I want to say don't overthink it. Own your story and work on your elevator pitch of your story. You want to make it short and sweet because our attention spans are very short. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ashley. Nicely done. Quick introduction, and I've got a couple of pictures on the slide here. So 2014. This is my I might be cooked right after my diagnosis picture. And so we got family pictures done, and 10 quick years later, here we are. So excited to have the bottom photo from last year. You can see it, the kids have gotten really big. I have a similar path as so many of you, right? And so it starts with, for a lot of us, a cough, and then the cough is poorly diagnosed, and a lot of people cough. So it's pretty rare that it turns out to be lung cancer, to be honest. But anyway, it took a while to get there, but we ended up, 8 months later after the cough started, we figured out it was a stage 4 lung cancer. I was lucky in 2014 to get biomarker testing right out of the gates, and turned out to be ALK positive. And so, but just in terms of treatments, targeted therapy. So I've been on a targeted therapy since the very beginning. Also had the benefit of an aggressive care team who was willing to throw the kitchen sink at me and offer me surgery. I mean, well, we had to ask. I'm gonna get to that in a second. But anyway, so you know what? Let's go right there. So what does advocacy look like to me? So again, I have the luxury of 10 years of hindsight now to really think about this and really think about what I did in those 10 years and what advocacy was to me. So the first 3 years, right? I was really focused on finding my twin. Just like Ashley talked about, somebody else has to be out there. I can't be the only one who's 34 years old with a late-stage lung cancer diagnosis who has this weird ALK mutation. And you'd ask your doctor, and they'd be like, oh yeah, we have other people. And it's like, well, who? Can I meet them? And they're just like, maybe. Probably not. And so my first Hope Summit was in 2015. I was right about 10 months after diagnosis, and that's where I met my twins, several twins now, several people who are now in their 40s, who are ALK positive, anyway, just an amazing community. So, but also in those first years, advocacy for me was self-advocacy, right? So why are we doing this test, and why aren't we doing that test? And I remember, one of the things that stuck out to me was, why do we only do brain MRIs when the patient is symptomatic? Doesn't that seem like kind of like we've missed it, right? And so, one of the things, and I want to share this with everybody here today, the magic words. The magic words that we used with my oncologist were, I would sleep a lot better at night if I had a brain MRI every 6 months or once a year. Or I would sleep a lot better at night if we did a PET scan instead of a CT scan this time. And that worked. So, don't forget to self-advocate along the way. Next 5 years, I kind of wanted to just get my life back to normal. My kids were at these ages where it was kind of like, we're busy and we're just trying to live a normal life again, and things were going good with lung cancer. So maybe I'll go for that promotion at work. It seems like people at work are forgetting that I had lung cancer, and that can be frustrating, but that can also be kind of nice, right? So that, kind of just kept my head down for a few years. The last few years, like I said, 10 years of hindsight. So holy crap, like biomarker testing saved my life. I think I have to tell people about that. NIH research saved my life. I think people need to be reminded of that. It seems like we've taken that for granted for some reason right now. And so really just how can I help? How can I get involved? So my advice to folks and we'll, how are we doing? Okay. Advocate for you, advocate for your family, and advocate for your community. And start where you are, right? So, you know, I talked about a 10-year timeline. For a lot of people, 10 months is all it takes to really start the process. Ashley is a 10-week advocate, right? She was like, we're telling the story, and I think that's awesome. So wherever you happen to be, but if you want to get engaged with LUNGevity, if you want to get engaged with another organization local to you to help make an impact, to help raise awareness, all of those organizations have structures already built. So you don't have to go in knowing what you want to do and how you want to get there. All you need to do is raise your hand. So advocacy can maybe sound overwhelming, can maybe sound like, oh, I don't know how to do that. And it's not like that at all. It's all about just raising your hand, making yourself available, being okay if nobody calls you for 6 months to do something, or forcing it and saying, what can I do to help, and staying in touch. So that's where I think we ended our slides, but we want to get to some questions. Do we have any, are there questions in the chat that we need to be checking on?
Do we check those?
Okay.
We check those. Check it, Frank.
Yell out a question. Or do you want to check it?
Oh.
And I'm going to repeat it.
I just want to talk to the gaslighting factor. I just want to talk to the gaslighting factor that you were mentioning with your diagnosis. I didn't have it with lung cancer. I had it with, turns out I had a cardiomyopathy. But for like 2 years, I walked around and went to 3 different cardiologists, was telling everybody, like, hey, but it is so true. It was just like,
Yeah.
you know what, if you take your blood pressure, you're gonna get anxious and it's gonna make it higher. And I'm like, I am not anxious, I am concerned. And I had different facts. I had a carotid artery dissection prior to all this, but it took like 2 years for it to be diagnosed. So it's real, it really is real. And it was basically, I was told, relax, sweetheart. Just relax, go home and relax. Like it was in my head.
Yeah.
So.
It's an unfortunate story so many women, I mean, people generally, but I think generally more women share.
Right. And I'm a nurse. They knew I was a nurse.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine what general population goes through.
Yeah.
Because I had to fight to find out I had a
You have to
cardiomyopathy.
fight. Which is hard when your health is declining. Like the
Yeah,
last thing
you're
you want to do is
exhausted.
fight for your health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a question here in our app that says, do you have any advice to people who are struggling to find their people?
Oh.
Keep looking. They are out there. If you, I kind of mentioned that I really was hopeful that my physician, my oncologist could help me find those people. But I will say there's a lot of Facebook groups out there that may be the right people for you. But Ashley, you're a no mutation, so like
It's so hard.
Yeah.
And I want to start a group, the No Mutation Mutants. So if anyone can help me do that, because like we're the only one that doesn't have a cool name. KRAS kickers.
Actually,
else?
there are a lot of people at the conference who would join you, because I've heard that a lot this weekend.
I can't hear what you guys are saying that well. Can you?
She said there's a lot of people at the conference right now that would be willing to join that
Yeah,
group, so
great.
you should do that.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think like if you find one person that's your person, ask them who else are our people, and just keep resourcing yourself.
Hi. I don't have a question, but I do want to talk about Ashley, how you were misdiagnosed, because the same thing happened to me. I was 48. I don't know how I knew. I think it was the fatigue. I was so tired.
Yeah.
And my primary care doctor, because I was young, just brushed it off as menopause symptoms or whatnot. And I actually asked her for a lung cancer screening because I had a history of smoking.
Yeah.
And my insurance said yes, but my doctor said no. And I never understood that. And then a couple years later, I had a history of frozen shoulder. So when this shoulder started feeling pain, they gave me a steroid shot. Obviously, it didn't work. And I was tired. That was it. So she gave me a scan, told me it was fine. And like you said, advocate.
X-ray?
You know your own body.
Yeah.
I didn't believe her. I left. I went to a completely different facility, and they gave me a scan, and I had lung cancer. I was fortunate enough that I'm 2B, because I didn't, like you. I pushed and I pushed, and I didn't let myself become a textbook. You know,
Yeah.
I'm an individual. These are my concerns. You're going to hear them because you're here. You're working for me, you know?
Yeah.
So what you said just really resonated with me. So I just wanted to agree.
Thank you. Thank you. And
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say, I know how hard it is to push back against doctors. We're taught that, like, to say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, and just trust that they know everything. And sometimes they do, but I would never recommend putting your life in just one person's hands. It's the power of a second opinion.
I have a question. Whenever I see all of us, I'm always wondering how your work has been affected. I was glad you addressed that, Frank, in that middle period of your life. So I wanted to ask Ashley and Frank if you could tell us, at this point in your lives, are you working full-time? Are you working part-time? How is that affecting your life?
Yeah, I'm working full-time. I went in kind of with the mindset that I wanted to keep things as normal as I could, partially for the kids and the family. Also, the income was, the primary income in the household. So I continue to work part-time. Fortunate to be on a therapy that's low burden, I guess is what I would say. So I've been lucky to be able to do that.
So I worked in hospice. I was so eager to get back to my normal after my diagnosis, and I rushed through things. I really wanted to get back to work. About a week or two after I had my lung removed, I got a call from HR. They said, you have to come back or we're letting you go. I have 2 kids. I am separated. So I went back primarily for health insurance, despite just having a lung removed. I think they gave me a month and a half. It was very traumatizing for me. I was the social worker that was doing admissions. So people coming onto our service, I would do assessments, I would look over their medical history. Many of these people were on the same treatments as me, and the treatments failed them, which is why they were coming onto our service. I just had this different perspective, and I attempted it for a few months. I ended up getting shingles, a cancer recurrence.
Shingles. I got shingles.
Yeah, it was crazy,
Yeah.
crazy. I'm so young to get shingles on my hand. Anyway.
Stress.
Yeah, it was stress related. So that's when I decided to prioritize my health at all costs. I have not gone back to work, and I do advocacy full time. I have disability and a private disability insurance policy.
Yeah, okay.
How people are affected in that way.
It affects everything, yeah.
We're only going to have time for 2 more questions, and we have to get to the raffle. I'm going to combine 2 questions, and then we have one more here in the audience. This is really to Ashley. With all the posting that you do, how do you deal with the negativity? And then, Frank, I know that you and I have talked about this, so you can zing in on the second half of this. And if I don't want to share my story on social media, where are other places I can share my story?
So dealing with the negativity. So let's define negativity. For me, it was people telling me what would cure me, telling me chemo's going to kill me. And also, I wouldn't call this negative, it's just hard to hear, oh, my brother or sister's aunt died of lung cancer, whatever. So when I first started posting, it was really hard. I would do little warnings, do not tell me about death, I only want to hear survivor stories, and that helped. Of course, it's social media, not everyone listens to that. I had to sort of learn how to deal with it, and when I am in a mentally, lower place, I don't go on social media, I don't post, or I'll post about how I'm feeling, but honestly, this diagnosis is very hard, as we all know, so I prefer for my page to post things that are a little more uplifting. That would make me feel good if I'm in a low place. So I don't always post when I am in a weird headspace. So I just set strong boundaries with myself, I guess, to answer that question.
Yeah, so the second question was about how can I, if I don't want to do social media? Okay. Yeah, how can I get my story out? So great question, and it's a little more analog, obviously. So I'll say recently, there's so many cancer organizations that are probably local in your communities that would love to hear your story. So just recently, American Cancer Society, ACS, reached out and they said, hey, we're working on a biomarker bill in the state of Nebraska, and we could really use your voice. And they got my name through somebody who I had met 4 years earlier and said, oh yeah, maybe Frank could do that. And so, you know, building connections with organizations like that. American Lung Association is also a group that typically has a local presence in most communities, and they also do advocacy in terms of they also invited me this year to come to Washington to do their Day on the Hill. And so the second they know you're out there, because they have the same difficulty connecting with patients as we have with each other. And so you just need to make yourself known to them. And they're going to figure out a way to take your story and do something with it, because all of our stories are super powerful. And it's just, you know, they have a real hunger for that right now. So definitely make yourself available to those local folks. And then LUNGevity has great options too. You know, talk to the folks here before you leave for the weekend.
Yeah, or sign up for the Action Network.
Yep. Yeah.
I also wanted to say, Go2 for Lung Cancer has patient spotlight pieces that you can reach out to them. And if you're under 50 with lung cancer, Young Lung Cancer Initiative is such a supportive, great organization. And they have their own podcast where you can share your story with them as well.
One last question right here, and then we're going to get to pulling some prizes.
Yeah, I guess some of this has already been covered, but I worry about the social media part. Ageism is the thing that I worry about.
Yeah.
And being just one more gray-haired old lady. I mean, I have a very compelling story, but, you know, ageism is a thing. And the other thing that someone else mentioned was I envision this, you know, horrible pity party thing that I don't want.
This horrible
you know,
what?
pity party thing
Oh, yeah.
you know, all these people writing in on Facebook or wherever, you know, like, oh, prayers to you, or, you know, all of this stuff. Like, I just don't want that.
Yeah.
You know, I want to steer it into more advocacy. I have been a patient advocate before. I had breast cancer before the stage 4 lung. I also was just diagnosed again with breast cancer. So, I mean, you know, I have a lot of good things to say.
You do.
It's just that I don't want people to be turned off because I'm old.
I'm going to say I know like 2 older women, and I understand we're all fighting against these isms, right? There are, like ageism, there are like 2 older women on social media. They have like 5 billion followers. Everyone adores them, and they make such an impact. And it's so empowering to watch them because I don't see many people that look like you on social media. There are a ton of people that look like me. What's your name?
My name is Maida, and I'm 75 years old.
Maida's on social media. What's your name? Chicago Sun-Times. Uh-huh. Yeah. Your
Yeah,
story
I love
deserves
that.
to be heard.